Happy Halloween from Jazz. Now, I'm not sure if this video will be out right on Halloween or the day after. I'm just starting it the day before. I was not really sure what I was going to do this year, but I decided that I'm going to kind of do a one-off, things but that scared me or still do kind of disturb me between my childhood and, now. It's going to be a little different than just things that scared me in my childhood because, everyone's done just the childhood thing. And also, guys, keep in mind that some of these things are kind of silly maybe to you, but to me, they're legitimate fears. And not all of them are media related. Some of them are just experiences. I'll give some of my experiences too. So it's not going to be like a review or anything this year. Just something a little bit more chillaxed a little bit and that. So, as I said, it'll be at the top of my head too. Just kind of a not quite scripted one-off thing. I know one thing that scared me within the last few years was, I'm sorry guys, maybe I can check it up later. I forget the name of this game, but it's a game that I saw a few YouTubers play, and it's about a game where you try to hitchhike, and the person you're hitchhiking with can go off at any second and then just scream at you and go right in your face, and you have to try to keep an eye on how his meter is or something, and then you have to ditch, when you think you're in danger. Some of you guys know what I mean. I'm sorry I forget, it may be hitchhiking or something, but the thing is, it's something that I actually found worse than Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know why, but I can sort of, to a degree, tolerate some Five Nights at Freddy's jump scares now. With this game, oh my god, I watched it for this game for a few minutes. After that jump scare, I couldn't enjoy. I was so on edge about the guy popping up, and just suddenly, you just look around and suddenly he jumps in your face, and that's a game over. But I was so terrified of that happening a second time, I couldn't even continue watching the video as much as I enjoyed the guy's commentary. I think it was Markiplier. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I actually watched it on. It was 3 or 4 years ago. And it still pops up in my head. It's I've always been bad at jump scares in general. But this was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I've watched some horror movies with jump scares, and that, just stuck in my head more than anything else. If I can find footage and finally think of the title, I will show you. But you guys who know what I mean, just put it down below, please, for I don't know why I want to remember the name of it, but maybe it'll help me to avoid it from now on. That was just awful. To change something a little different was, it is media related, but this was when I was a child, and I, for the life of me, cannot think of the name of this commercial. There's going to be some commercials on this list too. It's all media, and non-media, and it's a very, very old commercial. The oldest I remember it being on was maybe 11 at the oldest. It may have been younger than that. It was the last time I saw it. But the thing is, I would not be afraid of this nowadays, but it was a commercial talking about children's memories, that their memories before 5 would last forever, the rest of their lives. And literally, it just showed this music. It wasn't even really eerie. It showed a snail, and it showed a whole bunch of different things, and it was just all music, and they just had a little dialogue. I forget most of it, but what I remembered was the ending. The years before 5 would last the rest of their lives. And you're thinking, well, what's so bad about that? You could understand my last entry, or my last thing, because it was legitimately scary. The first time I saw it, and up for a few years afterwards, I was kind of a stupid child. Or, what's the best word for it. What I took from it was, after 5, you're gonna die. Like, yeah, how I got that message from the years before 5 will last the rest of their lives. I mean, maybe the rest of their lives is what caught me off. I know, I was stupid, but I was like, what, between 5 and 9? Maybe younger. That's what I meant, not younger. Like, maybe younger than 9, but 9 is a stretch. And I was completely naive. That's the word I was looking for. And every time I heard that music come on or saw it, I ran out of the room. I couldn't take that commercial. And I don't know if it was just that message or the tone of the person saying it, because I seem to have issues with auditory. I have a weird auditory response. No, I don't hear things in my head. No, that's not what I mean. It's some noises, sounds put me off. And like the all hush, not the hush, but like certain ways, like for example, another thing I'll add is that the fewer discretion is advised messages used to haunt me. For that reason, the tone that they used in their voice just haunted me. So maybe that's another reason that commercial that I just brought up bothered me. And I do not think I'll ever be able to find footage for this, because ironic that when I was younger, when I was afraid of this, I couldn't, like, there was no way to avoid it. It was like almost constantly haunting me. But now I cannot find anything about it, any reference to it. And if you guys know what I mean, for old time's sake, if you have a link to it, I honestly don't think it would still bother me now that I know that it isn't, like, I'm not going to die or whatever. But it just kind of, I do remember that had an impact on me, was impressionable on me. And as I said, I'm not bringing up the fewer discretion is advised one much again. That was just kind of a side one, like, to use as an example for my fear of certain, like, tones. Right? Like, another example of this was, I don't know if you guys have heard of Brooke Greenberg. The girl who looked like a baby and that, and she passed away a few years ago. And I was watching a documentary on her, like in the day of the life of her, and that's when she was 16 years old, like they recorded that footage. And I was just watching it. I've watched something similar before, like for that same thing, and right in the end of it, in a certain voice, tragically, Brooke, just, passed away, and just the suddenness and the tone of it haunted me, and that was within a year ago. And certain tones really bother me. Now, I'm not saying that my first entry, the tone wasn't used, but that's another thing, like, that's another tone that bothered me, like, the abrupt yell and some visual things bother me. It depends on the speed and the tone, the sound of it, whether it bothers me. Now, I'm not 100% saying, I'm off Five Nights at Freddy's, perhaps I'll Let's Play it. No, that's not happening. Well, it's a little closer to happening than me ever playing this game I mentioned, but I would play Five Nights at Freddy's before I'd play that in a heartbeat. But anyway, I'm trying to think what else. Really, there were some things that really, like, traumatized me when I was, I know, there were some of these commercials, almost a lot of the commercials that talk about work safety. Now, not all of them, but there was one in particular, and actually there's 2 commercials, not from the work safety, but one from the work safety that appeared on one of the Nostalgia Critics commercial specials, and it was talking about this Sous chef and how she was going to get married, and suddenly she trips and pours hot burning oil on her face and screams. That is traumatizing more than anything. I mean, it doesn't bother me as much anymore, but it at one point really, really bothered me. The other commercial that was on the Nostalgia Critics commercial specials that bothered me was the one where it shows that how much is that dog, the original, where it showed this cute little sheepdog. I think it was a sheepdog, and it's all playing how much is that doggy in the window, and it's so cute. Suddenly a gun is pointed at the poor thing's head. Now, really, there isn't any really real bad auditory in it, and even the tone of the voice of the man who says, "Pay now or we'll have to pull the trigger," wasn't even that bad. It was just the suddenness of the gun showing. It, like, you didn't expect it, it suddenly just goes real silent, and the gun, like, it just was one of those commercials that just, or ads that just kind of made you go cold. It was more creepy than traumatizing. Well, maybe a little traumatizing. I mean, it was so traumatizing. Like, I think it was played at a time where kids would be watching TV too. So imagine a poor child saying, "Oh, what a cute little doggy, I love this song." And suddenly a gun goes at his head. Jeez. I mean, it was so bad they had to change it to just a bunch of kids singing how much is that doggy in the window while showing how much a dog actually costs to raise. Which kind of shows, okay, if you're seriously thinking of having a pet or a dog specifically, think of all that's going to happen, right? And it's a fine idea, not how they originally presented it, but it's a good, like, their motive, I think, was good. I think not their moral, but they were genuinely trying to portray that if you want a dog, have the resources and know-how and the want to look after it. And, like, as I said, their motives were pure, but and the way their tact of it was terrible. Like, I mean, the one they redid, that should have been what the first thing was. To show children and adults that don't understand that a pet costs a lot of money. If you don't have it, don't get a dog. Right? Like, just a little quick example. My dog was sick, and altogether it cost... she's fine now. It cost $100 and something, and I have to pay for half. So it's a lot of money just for a sudden vet bill. So, as I said, their motive, I liked their motive, their reasoning, but I do not like their execution. That was horrifying. Another ad that I hated, like a commercial, was that stupid coffee commercial. Was it from Japan or whatever? Where there's different ones where one was a long car ride and something really type of jump scare. And then there was one where they were just all peacefully meditating and the same thing happens. Gosh darn it. And again, I gotta let you know, and maybe I'll let you know in a text box or something, that I'm gonna try to not show these clips with audio for one, copyright. If I do show clips at all, I may just show pictures. And if I do have, stuff for it, and one, just for you guys don't have to worry about this jump scare. Cause I know it's Halloween, but to me, it would just be too cruel, especially if there was someone with a weak heart. So I'm gonna try to be sensitive to that. And I just remembered another thing that traumatized me. While I'm on the topic, it was a PSA, rather. Well, actually, the whole thing about the Sous chef, and that was a PSA too. But it was this at first seemingly cute and innocent PSA, or this little girl, maybe 9 to 11 years old at the oldest, was just walking down the street talking about the speeding in her neighborhood and how accidents are happening every day and whatever, and what the difference with the speed would be. And she ends it by asking, well, what will it take to stop it? And she looks like she's about to say something else, and she's dropped down right with a car. And then it shows her dead body. I think it's her dead body, obviously, because I think a blanket or something has covered her. And then suddenly it's like, is this what it takes? My God, oh God. And what's so bad about it is that it starts out innocent enough with this cute child, little girl, trying to talk about the safety of speeding in the neighborhood. And it ends with literally the worst possible thing happening. And it's right out of the blue. It's not like it's one of those commercials where you see a car already coming, right? And it's going to slowly, and then suddenly she's hit, right? Like we're not given any type of warning. It's just, you think it's just going to be a chatty PSA talking about like the statistics, and suddenly out of the blue a car just flies in, and God, I mean, I think I was more traumatized by that game in some senses, and I was an adult, okay, I was not an adult. I was 17, maybe 16. It was before my mother passed. Because I know I showed her it. So she died when I was 18, so it was when I was a teenager when I saw this, and oh my God, I remember it to this day. Sometimes that still plays in my head. It was that traumatizing. I mean, if I could find a clip, it was on YouTube when I saw this. I'm not going to show you completely everything in the audio. I might just show you the clip that bothered me. If I could find it, guys. If I can't, then I will put something to say I'm sorry I couldn't find it, or just, like, oh my God. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any movies in that really legitimately bothered me. I can't think of anything on that hand, or even many TV shows. Like, although there was something from a TV show, not an actual clip of a show, but the actual, and I can't play this because of copyright, but it was the ending song, theme song, Afraid of the Dark, and it was the ending theme song to the final couple seasons of it, the rock and roll part of it, I think. Yes, it was the rock and roll, do 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 do, like that one that bothered me. I don't know, it may have been maybe it was the audio of it that bothered me, but it was when I was a child, and that just didn't feel right to me. Does it still bother me today? Sort of a little bit. Not as near as bad as when I was a kid, but it still does kind of give me the EBGBs, which is why I usually end it after the episode is over. If I watch it on YouTube, I try to wait. Once I see the credits, I just turn the video off. But I remember, like, you couldn't really do that I mean, I guess you could turn the TV off, but it wasn't as easy, I don't think, as just having a thing right there and clicking it off. Like, especially if you didn't have the control, and that, oh God. I am thinking of some things. I'm sorry a lot of them aren't really TV show related, but honestly, I wasn't that, when it comes to the shows I watch, I don't think I've watched enough shows to really traumatize me. Oh, yeah. I actually thought of one. It was, I think, not Full Metal, it was Metal Apocalypse, or it was on Teletoon. It was one of those Adult Swim shows, and it was about those bunch of rockers in that, and I think one of my friends I showed this to, and it was about the episode of it was about this guy who refused to see a sick little girl who was dying, because I don't know what it was, he was just kind of into himself or something, I don't know what it was. By the time he decides to, it shows that she's dead, and then it's like, I died because of you! Oh my god. I know I say oh my god a lot, I'm sorry, but that is kind of how my reaction was, and it showed her decaying, and God, and the voice was the worst thing of all. I don't know if he was hallucinating how bad she looked, but guys, I forget the name of it, maybe I'll check. Well, again, I'll check everything by the time you see it. But I mean, it's not as bad now, I don't think, but a few years ago, it just horrified me. At least I found something from a TV show, because there really honestly isn't very much that legitimately scares me about TV shows themselves. There's just certain parts and aspects of it, right? Like the ending theme song or something. If anything I found even legitimately a little spooky in it would be that Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tale of the Night Nurse? Or is it the Night Shift? It was the last episode before they canceled it and brought it back. But it was that vampiristic zombie. Oh, gosh, it isn't, horrifying. It isn't, traumatizing, but I could see why kids would be traumatized by it. It's for a kids show. Okay, it's not I know it's not meant to be for little kids. I understand that. You had to be at least 7 or so years old to at least watch, even with a parent, right? So I understand it's not meant for tiny tots, but for a show meant for kids, I would have made that at least, maybe not PG-13, but at least 11 and older. I'd be at least a preteen before I would watch it. That episode particular. I think I did a review or something. I brought something up about this episode, I think, on my channel already. And I wasn't really scared by it, but I could see if any of them scared me even a little bit, it would be that one. Because if I was a child, because that was legitimately horror movie look. There wasn't blood or anything, and that's probably why it wouldn't have got a PG-13. But if it was if there was cursing and blood, it would easily make a 13 rated. And it's only because they didn't have those things that it was okay for kids to watch. But honestly, I actually found that thing scarier than Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees. Yeah. Or, okay, and the thing is, if it wasn't for it being a kid's movie, everyone probably would have died. Really died. Of course they simulated death in it, but they all were fine in the end, so that's because, it was a kid's movie. Honestly, I could easily see this thing as one of the horror movie killers, right? And when you could do that on a kid's show, maybe I should talk about some real life experiences before I really end this video off. I know this sounds stupid, but I am legitimately sort of afraid of strange dogs. Now, I know there'd be two different types of people here. One, well, me too. Of course you would be, you don't know them. Or, oh, come on, you big wuss. Yeah, I have a legitimate reason for that. When I was 16, I think, or 17, again, before my mother died, I used to walk. Yes, Jazz used to actually do exercise, or at least attempt it once in a while, too. And I would always walk up in an area, there was train tracks, I'll just say. I don't live here anymore, so it's a little safer to bring up. So I used to walk down there. Now, the thing is, the dog in question here, I'm not going to say names, was a neighbor's dog. So it wasn't 100% strange, because I have seen him before. But And when I say I've seen him before, he was locked in on the porch. So, but I've seen him before. And I was walking. Okay, when I say strange dogs, I mean dogs that I don't know real well, like family related, that I trust. That's what I mean. So I went for a walk, and I was starting my way up, and suddenly the dog went up. And I thought, oh, well, what's the big deal? Maybe I shouldn't run. I was told or whatever I shouldn't walk or run, or I was confused. Suddenly it bit me. It bit, and it left a mark in blood. And I just tried to walk, and the owner didn't see it at that time. I tried to ignore it and walk it off. I mean, I'm shocked I was able to ignore it for a few minutes, but I was just scared and shaking. And I think Kathy was visiting that day. That was before I moved with her. And I was walking down. I think she was going either to check on me or whatever. And I showed her what happened and whatever. The owners felt real bad and they wanted to give me something. Of course, my mom wouldn't let me take something. I'm sorry. I don't know what she was trying to teach me. I was just bit to a point. Now, I know they felt bad. It wasn't their fault. And they were trying to do the right thing. But I feel that Mom didn't help this situation. If she had let me receive something from them, maybe I would still be a little traumatized, but they were trying to own up to what they did. And I don't know whether it's because she was mad about what happened and they didn't want to try to take something, or she didn't want to make them feel bad. I can't remember the situation at the time. But it traumatized me. And even like dogs I know, I'm always a little careful. Like, I'm okay with my dog, Leah. I know she would not hurt me. I mean, at least I hope for the 5 years, 6 years I had her. Out of all the animals I've owned, she could be very hyperactive and you have to be careful of her not to knock you over. But I think she's pretty docile, I think. In a way, she's one of the most mellow dogs when it comes to that to aggression. The worst she did was growl at me, which did scare me and take me off guard a little bit, so I had to be careful then. But for the most part, I trust her, right? And actually, when I was in one of my classes, one of the things was what scares and what is a fear, but what they meant was, things that you're afraid to do and that you hope to come over. When I put a strange dog, at first they didn't know it was private. They said, okay, well, you have to take this seriously. I had to go over and say that. I did it and I was legitimate. He didn't stay mad at me. Especially when he realized he knew it was legitimate, right? But at that time was a fear, and it still is. And I do not like to walk alone anymore, in case that happens. I mean, of course I would want to be abducted by someone either, but I don't know why, but I think maybe it'd be a little easier on me with a person. I don't know, I wouldn't feel bad about kicking a person. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I'm not saying this to be cruel, but I would, even though a dog bites, I don't know why, but I feel it would be more cruel kicking an animal. I mean, I know some of you might say, oh, well, if you're in legitimate danger, Jazz, you should do something, right? You shouldn't just let it bite you because you feel bad about it. But it's considered a lot more cruel, right? Hurting an animal in self-defense than a human, just to me, right? I mean, I suppose technically there is a lot more danger with a human, and this is just a small one thing, and I'm not going to go too much into it because it's a little more silly than even the dog. When I was a child, and even a little bit now, I will not go down slides, especially water slides. Maybe it's the speed of it and the heights of it. But there was a time where my cousin and I were at Prince Edward Island, and I was 5 or 6, maybe even 4. And we both were on there, and suddenly she pushed me down. She pretty much shoved me down, and I went down real fast. And I was traumatized. So that is sort of a traumatization, but, you know, so it's kind of somewhat legitimate. Like, even though it's not supposed to be spooky, but I just, like, I know there's the things that I'm a little bit afraid of is a bit unique, but as I said, for me, I do have my legitimate reasons for it. And we'll just say, simple as that, well, maybe the little toddler slide, I probably wouldn't mind going down if it was just straight down, it wasn't very long. But if it's what, I could not do a twisty slide, I could not do a water slide. Anything with real speed to it, like that way. Like, I don't mind things speedy if I'm secure. Right? Like, if I'm in a ride where I'm just sitting in there and they're going around and moving around, kind of, and whatever, that's not the biggest deal. But something where I'm going down, I have no control, there's no safety precautions, scares me. And obviously, I'm just bringing this up because everyone knows I'm allergic to nuts, and this is a legitimate reason to be afraid of them. I have a phobia of nuts. Of any type. Peanut butter, tree nuts. I'm not saying this to make any light of people who have it, been diagnosed with it, but I swear I might have mild PTSD when it comes to nuts, because I don't have all the symptoms of PTSD, but everyone is different. Like, I legitimately almost died, and that is a traumatizing experience as one of the classifications of PTSD. I don't think I have it as severe as there are people who have it, but I legitimately, whenever I see nuts, I panic up, I kind of lose it a little bit. Like, I don't know, I never got diagnosed with that, but I do have a legitimate phobia of something touching that will cross-contaminate. But then again, when you think about it, it's not, the difference with this situation is that it's something that is ongoing, in a way, because it's not just like, for example, I was in a war, and I got injured, or someone got killed in front of me, and I'm not saying that it doesn't live in everyone's mind. People who experience it doesn't live in their mind forever. I'm not saying that it still doesn't continue and it still isn't a battle for them. That's not what I mean by that. But with my phobia of nuts and my, fear, or what I mean, it can get me at any time. It legitimately can. It's a legitimate fear and concern that is ongoing. And so that's the big difference between me and someone who goes through PTSD from a situation that's happened. That not only do I have the fear replay in my head, like what happened, but it could happen again pretty easily if I'm not careful. I mean, maybe not as easy as it did the first time, but if something had been cross-contaminated, and let's say, for example, if I knew something said peanut-free, but I didn't realize that the thing touched someone else's meal that wasn't nut-free, and something happened, or someone used a knife that they used for nuts. I mean, I would never let something so obvious hurt me. Like, okay, you know what, guys? Yay, I just thought of another movie that sort of bothered me, but it wasn't really the movie itself in general, but just a specific scene, and it was Hereditary. Now, just like me, the character of Charlie has an anaphylactic reaction to nuts. And she went with her brother to a party where he saw a cake and he didn't see anything wrong with it. What he didn't know was that the knife used to cut the cake had previously chopped nuts. And oh my god, that fear can happen at any time. Like, the cake was already cut. You couldn't ask to use another knife. It was cut. She took a piece that was cut, which was used with the same knife. No one knew this. Like, the brother didn't, Charlie didn't. It was because of that she died. And not necessarily, but that contributed to them leaving and causing the incident that killed her. And God, out of everything that happened in that movie, that was the thing that scared me the most. And it was a pretty freaky movie as it was, scary movie as it was. And that is a big fear of mine, that someone had something already cut with a knife, that you chopped nuts up or something or whatever. That is the only real concern that I have, but that still is a concern. But I think I know as an adult to go and ask, okay, what did you use to cut this? I am allergic to nuts. Did you chop anything nut or peanut related with it? Like, I would, if I didn't know, I would ask. Where I think with Charlie, her brother left to meet a girl or something. And Charlie, I don't think had the social skills to go and say, is this safe to eat? Because her parents always took care of that for her. Any bar she had, they would ask, is it nut-free? Yes, it's a nut-free kind, or whatever. She never had to rely on herself. And, I mean, she may have been 11 years old or something, but she mentally was not there. I'm not saying this to be offensive to anyone, but she could not easily, you could tell she could not go to someone and ask the safety of it. Where now I know. I'm always cautious, and if I'm not sure, I go to someone who may have prepared it or know about it and ask until I knew. There was a time I wanted to try a certain chocolate, ice cap thing, and I asked about possible nut contamination ingredients. They couldn't be sure, so I didn't get it. I want it to be safe, and okay, I know this went off track a little bit. I apologize, and it's been a long video, but I might make up for it for being late. And so I can't think of very much. There was a lot of commercials as a child that traumatized me. There weren't many movies or TV shows that bothered me as a whole, or episodes that bothered me as a whole. And I apologize for that. I tried to think of what I could that really scared me. I mean, the last thing I might add is death. I am afraid of dying. I'm more specifically afraid of my loved ones dying. And that happens every day. Not my loved ones, no, but death. And you would think, well, it's going to happen, right? And I know that. But it's also the fact that if I don't learn to take care of myself, what's going to happen? And I know that's a little deep and a little personal, but I would add that of everything that I mentioned, that is my biggest fear. Again, though, that video game thing was horrifying. Gosh darn it, Well, anyway, guys, if you enjoyed my Halloween special, even though it's a little bit different, a little bit rambly, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel and like what you see, please subscribe. It helps this channel a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you'll know when new videos are coming out. And I will see you guys in my next video.